Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a tool that promises to solve one of the biggest mysteries in advertising. Why do some ads just completely crush it, while others, well, they just fall flat? We're talking about the creative itself and how you can finally measure what actually matters. So let's just start with this one number, 49%. Now, this single figure, it represents the biggest, most influential, and honestly the most ignored piece of your entire performance puzzle. And here's what it means. You see, groundbreaking research from Nielsen shows that nearly half, 49%, of an ad's ability to drive sales comes directly from the creative quality. Think about that. That's more than reach, more than targeting, even more than brand recognition. That's right, the visuals, the copy, the hook, that's where almost half the magic is happening. Which, leads to a pretty big question. If creative is the single biggest lever we can pull for better results, why is it so often treated like some mysterious art form that you can't really measure? Why are so many of us basically flying blind on our most important asset? Okay, so this brings us to what a lot of people in the industry call the creative black box. It's that super frustrating space where you know something is working, but you can't for the life of you prove why. Does any of this sound familiar? You're jumping between data from Meta, from TikTok, from YouTube. You're drowning in these endless manual spreadsheets, just trying to piece it all together. The real insights, they get buried, and the big decisions end up being based more on a gut feeling than on actual hard evidence. You spend hours, maybe even days, just on reporting, only to, what, end up guessing anyway? All right, so this is where things start to change. Instead of just tracking the same old metrics, we need analytics that are built from the ground up to understand the why. A system that's designed to analyze the creative content itself, not just the numbers it spits out. And this is a really fundamental shift in thinking. See, for years, traditional analytics have told us what happened. We got 1,000 clicks. Great. But creative analytics, the kind that Superads offers, finally tells us why it happened. It's because the ad used a specific hook, or it had a certain emotional tone, or maybe it featured a particular kind of visual. It's the move from tedious manual tracking to real automated intelligence. So let's just nail this down. Creative analytics is all about treating your creative as a set of variables you can actually measure and optimize. It's about breaking down the visuals, the text, the emotion, to see exactly what components are driving your return on ad spend. It basically turns art into a science. So, how does this actually work in the real world? Theory's great, but let's take a look inside the Superads platform and see how it really brings this whole idea to life. First off, it solves that constant problem of platform hopping. Instead of juggling 4 or 5 different ad managers, all of your creative performance from Meta, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube gets pulled into one single unified dashboard. And look, for agencies, being able to connect unlimited ad accounts, that's a total game changer. And this is where the AI really starts to shine. The system automatically analyzes and tags your creatives, so you don't just see that an ad did well, you see why it did well. You get a super clear, actionable insight like this one. Hey, ads with testimonials drove a 34% better return. Imagine knowing that. That is a direct, data-backed instruction for your next creative brief. The platform also uses these things called boards. Now think of them like living, breathing reports. Instead of emailing an outdated PDF to your team or your client, you share a dynamic dashboard that everyone can interact with in real time. It completely transforms the way you collaborate. Then you've got the AI Copilot. This thing lets you just ask your data questions in plain English. Seriously, forget about complex filters and digging through menus. You just ask, which creatives worked best last month? And boom, it instantly generates the report for you. It makes sophisticated analysis accessible to literally everyone on the team. Okay, so how does all this stack up against the other tools that are out there? Let's take a quick look at the competitive edge that Superads really provides. So when you put Superads right next to a competitor like Motion, the differences are pretty stark. You're not just getting similar features, you're getting huge differentiators like the customizable boards and that AI Copilot we just talked about. For agencies, that multi-account view is an absolute must-have that Motion just doesn't have. And on top of all that, it's faster and comes in at a fraction of the cost. It's just way more accessible. Now, if you compare it to a tool like MagicBrief, it's really less about direct competition and more about just having a different purpose. MagicBrief is awesome for looking outward, researching competitor ads to get ideas. Superads is all about focusing inward. analyzing your own active campaigns with automated AI tagging to tell you what's actually driving results for your business. And this is a really crucial point. The free plan is not just some limited throwaway trial. It's incredibly robust. It gives you access to the AI pilot, connections to all the major platforms, and unlimited team members right out of the gate. For a lot of smaller teams, this might actually be all they ever need. Yup, the cost to get started with all this core functionality is zero. You can connect your accounts and start getting real insights without ever having to pull out a credit card. It just completely removes any barrier to entry. And the impact is real, especially for smaller businesses. Take this from Dimitri, a small business owner. He says the platform flat out ended the guesswork for him. It gave him the clarity to know exactly which creative elements were actually working, which allowed him to invest confidently in what was proven to drive returns. So, this all leads us to the final and probably the most important point. How do you actually use all these insights to build smarter creative and ultimately just plain better ads? Well, the path to getting value here is incredibly straightforward. Step 1, you just connect your accounts to get a baseline. Step 2, you use the AI to identify the winning patterns, the visual styles and messages that consistently outperform everything else. And step 3, you act on it. You scale the winners and you pause the losers in real time. Simple as that. So the big takeaway here isn't just about a new tool. It's about a whole strategic shift. It's about moving your team from making creative decisions based on intuition to making them based on hard data. And when you do that over and over again, you start to build this compounding competitive advantage that your competition, well, they just can't match it. So I'm going to leave you with this one final question to think about. When you look at your own campaigns right now, is your ad budget truly funding data-driven decisions, or is it still just funding some really good guesses?